Good morning. This is a demonstration of version 2 of the TruAudience platform. The TruAudience platform serves a couple different audience management purposes. One is that the system allows you to load samples of your first-party data, for example, your customer lists, to see insights against those. The TruAudience platform appends hundreds of different data points against your existing customers so you can see how the data stacks up against your customers. The system also has capabilities for you to build audiences. There are two ways the system allows you to build audiences. On the one hand, you can build audiences using TruSignal's lookalike modeling capabilities, and you can also use pre-built segments and combine those using Boolean logic. I'll show you demonstrations of both of these. Once you build an audience using either of these techniques, then you have the ability to distribute the audience to various places in the ecosystem, more than a couple hundred different places on the internet, and this is via our LiveRamp integration. Let's take a look at each of these different components to give you a feel for how that works. All applications start in the dashboard. There are two navigational bars here. Main navigation is at the top. Then there's a secondary navigation field down below. So we're looking at sample files, which are first-party data sample files that have already been uploaded. Here you can see the file name, when the data was loaded, more information about the source of the data, and then the number of records we were able to match. All of the sample files that have been loaded also have an info file. If you click on info, it will give you more information about the IDs, the kinds of mappings that were used, the record count, etc. This is your first tab to see what kind of sample files are uploaded into the system. But the starting point for most activities is audience creation. When you click Create an Audience, you have a number of choices in terms of how you get data into the system. For this particular example, I have a file on my hard drive that I want to use as the starting point. I'm going to choose Sample File by uploading it from a computer, and then I'm going to give it a name. When I hit Create, the system is going to look at my hard drive and allow me to choose a file. I happen to have some mobile IDs here. When I hit go, the system is going to scan the file and then ask me what kind of data I'm going to import. What it's now asking me is, tell me what this information is. And I've got a single column of mobile ad IDs in this particular file. You'll notice that TruSignal supports many different data types. We support uploading PII, MediaMath IDs, AppNexus IDs, hashed emails, and IDs from many different data providers out there. TruSignal is also a LiveRamp destination. So if you have your data hosted at LiveRamp, you can specify LiveRamp to send it directly into your TruAudience platform account. This mapping is a simple exercise. These are mobile IDs, and when I choose mobile IDs, the system is then going to begin the import process and load that file. What the system is doing here is taking each mobile ID, matching it against TruSignal's identity graph, and then creating this file called sample mobile ID. Once the file is loaded, the next step that most people do is Insights, to learn a little more about the file that they just uploaded. So let me take a file that already exists. For example, this sunglass high-end sample file. If I click this icon, View Insights, it will take me into the Insights module inside of the TruAudience platform. Insights allows me to see more than 300 different data points about my users. Here's a summarization of age, gender, income, marital status, level of education. The charts are interactive too. You can click on the charts and you can size them. If you want to zoom in, you can grab the slider bar. Overall, there's a lot of detail to digest here. The way to think about this chart is that the file on the left, your sample customers, are represented in blue bars in the graphs. Dark blue represents those areas where your customers over-index compared to a baseline population. The lighter blue is where they under-index compared to a baseline. Baseline is the comparison point that says, what are we comparing your customers against? In this case, in this example, it happens to be the U.S. adult population, but you can change that too. I can use the U.S. population, or I can find people who I have mobile IDs against. I can even compare two different files, for example, best customers and worst customers. In general, this tool allows you to get a feel for the different data sets that TruSignal has access to, as well as to learn a little more about your customers. Here you have tabs for demographics, financial, automotive, employment, etc. In Insights, there's a lot of rich information about your customers compared to the US adult population. The system also has a share capability. So if you click the share link, Share will automatically allow you to create a link that can be shared and sent to one of your clients directly. The beauty of this link is that they don't actually have to log into the system. Share automatically pulls up a dynamic version of the TruAudience platform that your clients can navigate through interactively. The last component of Insights is there's a download capability. So if you like to see it graphically, that's one way to do it. If you choose download, the system is going to output a summarization of all the data tables and put it into a nice Excel spreadsheet. So if you're more of a visual person, you have the graphs, but if you're more of a data tabulation person, the system will also export the exact same report, more of in a data tabulation format. So that's Insights in a nutshell. So far we've uploaded a sample of our customers, and then we've learned a fair amount of insights about them. The next thing I want to explore is audience building. I'm going to first show you how to build a lookalike model. Then we'll use the audience builder. These are the platform's two different methodologies to create audiences. In this case, I'm going to start with my sunglass high-end sample file. You'll notice that as soon as I check the selector box, various options come up. I can build a model, I can duplicate the file, archive, etc. A lot of different options appear once I select a given seed file. In this case, I just want to build a model, so I'm going to choose the model button. Clicking that button pulls up the modeling interface. You'll notice Sunglass High-End is the model featured. By the way, I can also build a model based on an audience that already exists. For example, if you use the platform's Audience Builder tool to build an audience, I can then come back into the modeling tool and build a model based upon that audience to expand it. To build a lookalike model, you have a couple of choices to make. The first choice is the level of granularity. If you want your model to be at the individual or the household level, and that really depends upon your application. Secondly, sample files selected from a panel or a limited universe. For example, a number of customers that we work with might be survey companies where all of their customers surveyed might be a total of 25,000 individuals. In order to make sure you're not biasing your model in that particular situation, it's important to select a BADS population. In this example, that would be your entire survey population. The goods in the model would be the people that we loaded into the file as seed, and the BADS would be your entire survey population. This is an advanced option and most use cases do not require it, so unless you have a reason to change it, most of the time it's best just to leave that option alone. Finally, there's a scale population. When we build a model, we take every single record in the input file, append 2,700 data points against them to build the model. The model is really good at determining which of those factors are likely to be predictive about who is a really good customer for you. The system is going to sort through those 2,700 data points and narrow them down to about 100 or so that are really the most important from a predictive perspective. Then we use that information to score the entire U.S. population. Everyone in the U.S. population gets a number from 0 to 99. 99 represents the best fit. It means they look really similar to your existing best customers. 0 means they look nothing like your best customers, and then everywhere in between. When we're done with the modeling exercise, everyone in the U.S. will have a number from 0 to 99. The best way to think about the 0 to 99 is that the 99 represents the best 1% of the lookalike population. 98 represents the next best 1%, and so forth. Essentially, this is a rank ordering of the U.S. population by percentiles based on how much they look like your existing customers. The scale population capability allows you to change how the 0 to 99 scaling works. By default, we give a 0 to 99 score to everyone in the U.S., but there might be a situation where you want to change this. For example, you might want to say, I only want the best 1% of people in the state of California. So if you choose California as the scale, now the system knows that I want to find a 0 to 99 score. I want the 99s to represent the best 1% of the people in the state of California, not in the general U.S. population. In this example, you were restricting the model to only operate in certain geographies. That's an example of where you would want the scale population to change the behavior of the modeling engine. Again, this is an advanced feature. It's not necessary for many use cases, but it's worth pointing out the flexibility and capabilities that the system has. Once you have your basic options, you hit Create. Then the system takes about an hour or so. It's going to pull massive amounts of data and run multiple machine learning algorithms to determine what is the absolute best data to predict who is likely to be a good lookalike for you. To see the results of the model, you go back to the dashboard. This time, instead of looking at the sample files, I move over to the Models tab. The Model tab shows all the different models I built in the system. Here's a listing of all the models I currently have active. This is where the outcome of the modeling exercise would live. Why don't we take a look at this retail sample file as a model? You'll notice that for this particular model, I can get more information about it. If I click Info, it's going to give me some additional details in terms of exactly how the model was built. At TruSignal, we're big fans of transparency. The other thing I can look at after I build a model is the results. If I click on the Modeling Insights tab, what that's going to do is show details about what happened in the modeling process. For this particular model, the first thing you'll notice is the predictive factors. These are the actual data points that helped contribute to the final model output. You'll notice that we summarize them. For example, financial statistics, purchase history, census, hobbies and interests. A lot of different data points contributed. On the right side, here are the top 15 or so different factors, the top ones. If you really want the details, you click Download Factors. That gives you a complete listing of every single factor that was used in the model and its relative importance. Again, this is part of our transparency principle. You can download that, look at it in Excel, and it will tell you about every single variable that contributed. For example, this particular variable, estimated household income, it contributed 2.4% of the predictive power to the final model. Here you can also get a feel for how a lot of different data points are coming together to help predict who's likely to be a great fit for your brand. The other thing I like to look at is the gains chart. Gains charts is a way to understand how well the model is performing. If I click on gains charts, you can see the scores we were talking about. Remember the 0 to 99s? Here we've bucketed them into 5% increments. So a score of 95 to 99, that scores the best 5% of the population. You can see we also calculate an audience lift metric. The way to think about audience lift is how much better is this than random, where essentially a 1.0 lift would be random. Performance is neither better nor worse than random. Here you're seeing that this particular model has a 9.87 lift factor. In other words, the users within this score band, 95 to 99, are 9.87 times as likely to be a good fit compared to random. And that's the best way to think about it. This is more of a visual view, but if you like tabular views, you can go to the Details tab. The Details tab gives you a tremendous amount of information on some of the data science type metrics that we look at. For example, you can see the AUC, the KS score, all the data science and machine learning performance metrics. This screen also gives you details of how the model did. Here you can see that when we built the model, within the score of 99, we identified 707 good records that got the score of 99, and 250 bad records got the score. From a percentage perspective, 28% of the good records had that score, but only 1% of the bad records. That's a really good efficiency. If it were a 1% of the goods and a 1% of the bads, like it is down at the very bottom of the model, you're essentially saying it's random. You might as well just pull balls out of a hat at that point. In this model, the score of 99 has tremendously good efficiency. As expected, as you get lower and lower on the score range, your efficiency drops until you're all the way at the bottom of the model, score of 0, where we found 250 bad records and 0 of the goods. That means that at the lowest score, you're the worst performing individuals from a lookalike perspective. Again, there's a lot of details here, and like most things in the system, you can share a version of this externally by clicking on this link. So that gives you in a nutshell the different capabilities as it pertains to making a model. Once you have a model, the next step is to actually create an audience. You'll see a button here to create an audience. If you click Create, the system is going to take the model and take me into the Audience Builder interface. Remember those 0 to 99 scores? Here they are again. You have a slider bar that allows you to select the size and the performance of the audience. Down below, you'll also notice we have many of the popular distribution points for audiences. For example, double-click Bid Manager. This gives you an estimation of the people and the cookie reach you will get from the resulting audience. The best way to think about this is that with this slider bar, the further to the right I go, that's bigger scale. You'll notice down here the cookie reach gets higher and higher as I move the slider bar to the right. But every time I add one more point to the audience score, the 0 to 99, I'm actually decreasing the effectiveness. If I want a super accurate audience, I just choose the 99 score. That's a 28x lift factor. That's a huge lift factor, but my audience reach is only 2.9 million people. So the slider bar allows you to make the trade-offs between scale and accuracy to size your audience appropriately for your specific objectives. You'll notice here that as I move the slider bar, the green number represents the cumulative efficiency. Essentially, if I take all scores, the range of 96 to 99, my audience lift is 11.2 on average. The blue number represents the marginal efficiency. So essentially, you're saying what's the efficiency at the point of 96, the score 96. In most use cases, you never want to go below a 1.0 marginal efficiency. Remember, that's random if you go below 1.0. And that's why we have a big red line at 1.0 efficiency, to remind you that you probably don't want to go below this line. You can also create multiple audience cuts by selecting this plus button, and you have multiple sliders to work with. Finally, it's sometimes advantageous when you output this audience to be able to say, I want to exclude certain people from this output audience. Maybe people that were an existing customer list or people that were part of a sample file that I used to build the model. There are a couple of bells and whistles to help you really fine-tune the audience. In this case, I have 3 different audiences with 3 different sizes and lifts. When I'm happy with the audience is I hit create and the system will automatically take those definitions and create 3 different audiences. Okay, here they are. 1, 2, 3, the sample audiences I just created. They're all labeled lookalikes and they're ready for distribution. So that's how you create audiences using a lookalike model. I want to turn now to another way to build audiences with the Audience Builder. If you don't have a sample file that you want to build a lookalike model with, one option that you do have is to use pre-built segments. Depending upon your configuration, TruSignal Data is one of the key data providers in the system. You can also have other data providers if you have those licensed from the LiveRamp data store. Let's just start with the TruSignal audience segments. This tab allows you to mix and match various segments and discover segments that might be good fit for you. Let's say I'm an auto manufacturer and I'm interested in targeting a competitive set. So I want to find people that own various Volkswagen autos today, for example. If I look for Volkswagen, that's going to surface segments related to Volkswagen. Here in the TruSignal dataset, I have Beetles, EOS, Golfs, etc. I can also expand the search to include other data providers, including Analytics IQ, Clickergy, Gravy, etc. As soon as I do that, you'll see that Gravy now has an in-market auto buyer Volkswagen segment. One of the benefits of the Audience Builder is that you can mix and match segments from different providers into the same final audience definition. Once I've discovered some of the segments that might be interesting to me, I can then select a segment like this one, and it automatically populates into the top portion of the Audience Builder. In this example, I'm going to take in-market Volkswagen, I'm going to take Jettas and Passats, and add those to the system. You'll notice that the system is doing an OR statement. If I click AND, it's going to change the logic. So this would say I want in-market for Volkswagen and Jetta and Passat. The reality is that I'm trying to target all those people, so I really want an OR statement here. The system also allows you to do expand-in Boolean logic. You can say I want this or this or this, and in addition, I'm going to give you additional criteria. I might also want to include other types of data points. For example, maybe I want healthy living. So I'm going to choose this Gravy Health Nut and this TruSignal Health Nut segment. And you'll see here I'm able to combine multiple data providers using, again, sophisticated Boolean logic. When I choose Calculate, the system is going to go through and give me an estimated count for this complicated audience definition. So this statement represents 461,000 people, and I should be able to find 202,000 cookies. I'm going to call this Volkswagen Healthy People. The last thing I might want to do is further tune the audience. If you go down below, there's an additional selection that allows you to tune the audience using geography. I can say, for example, I only want people in the state of California or Michigan. And finally, I can customize the age range and say I'm only interested in people who are 30 to 50, for example, and then finally add a gender overlay, men, women, or all genders. For this example, let's say men 30 to 59, and I'll use all the geographies. If I go back and recalculate, the system is going to factor those additional selects so that I'm further refining my audience using the demographic overlays. Look, now we're down to 96,000 people. When I say create, what's going to happen is the system is going to prompt me to make sure I'm using the correct definition. It's going to give me a pop-up to make sure I have everything I wanted before I confirm my audience. So this is my gravy segment or true signal, and health nut or lifestyle. All geographies, here's the age range, here's the gender range. Finally, it gives me a rate. If I were to create this audience and use it in an actual campaign, I would be charged a CPM rate of $1.50. When I say confirm, the system is going to take that definition and it's going to create an audience and put it into my TruSignal account. Before we take a look at that, one more thing I wanted to show you is the guided discovery. If I type in certain keywords, you'll notice on the bottom here it offers suggestions. For example, when I type in music, if you scroll the system, it pulls up recommendations that might be appropriate terms to use with the term music. Now let's go back to the dashboard and go back to the audience tab. Here's the audience that I just created, Volkswagen Healthy People. There's also the series of the 3 lookalikes we created earlier. The system can also build insights against these specific audiences that I just created. And again, I can get additional information about where the audiences came from, what was included in it, so you can always have a reference point to understand where those audiences came from. The last step of the puzzle is to actually distribute the audiences so I can activate it for campaigns. We've gone through several stages. We've uploaded a data file, we've seen insights against the file, we've built audiences using 2 different methodologies, including lookalike modeling and segment audience building, and the last step is distribution. Distribution is our word for taking the audiences that you create and sending them so you can activate it for marketing campaigns. You'll notice that the distribution system has several different platforms that are already loaded. To customize it for you, choose distribution and then add from the pick list. The pick list here is a subset. We actually have access to a couple hundred different providers. In this example, let's say I want to distribute to Hulu for an addressable campaign. Hulu's asking for my advertiser name, so I'm going to say it's TruSignal, and I click Add. Then the system adds Hulu under TruSignal. The last step is I choose Hulu, then I just need to tell the system what audiences I want to send over to Hulu. If I click the plus button, that pulls up a listing of the different audiences that are available in the system, including the lookalikes we just built. And I can also pull up sample files that I've loaded as well, so I can load my existing customer lists, for example. I can do that through this tool. In this case, I'm just going to choose Volkswagen Healthy People. When I say distribution, the system will take that audience definition and send it to be distributed through my Hulu TruSignal account. And that's it. And so in conclusion, we've gone from creating an audience to finding a distribution type with Hulu, and then sending that particular custom audience I created to Hulu directly for activation. This concludes the demonstration of the platform. Thanks for joining me.